Good evening, Africa. Good evening, African Confessions. We are back with another message here on African Confessions. So there is an email that was sent to me around 9:45 in the morning that I am going to read for you. It was shared by one of our admins. The message reads like this. Good morning, Africa. I am an old man who is in the late 60s. My life is a miserable one because of the things that I did in the past. Those things that I did in the past, I am not proud of those things. I am not proud of it, and I don't sleep at night. Hence, I had to write this story to you. Every September on the 11th of that month, there is a funeral at my house. This is how it all started. I went to Tete in Mozambique sometime in 1999 and I was given rats. This is about 24 years ago, and a friend of mine convinced me to take this journey with him. We were just two average people who had tried to go to school and we had failed to pass. I then had gotten a girl pregnant and her family was fighting with me. They forced me to marry her and I was not financially stable, but still I had to take some responsibility. So this is how a friend told me that he had a solution to my problem, and then he took me to Tete. We took the bus and we crossed over into Mozambique, and in those days Mozambique had some landmines. I mean those bombs planted in the ground. At that time, Mozambique was at war, and if you were to step on it, it will blow you into pieces. As we got off from the bus, we were told that we had to walk very carefully and to be mindful of our steps. The place was right in the deep forest. It was like a long walk to freedom because we were accompanied by a local who had to make sure that we did not step on the landmines. Upon arrival, the old man then took us into a very dark hut, and let me tell you and let me say that people there, they spoke Portuguese, and we didn't hear any single word that they were speaking, but we had a translator. Our translator told us what we were supposed to do. He gave me rats. There were 2 baby rats, and he told me that there was no blood. It was just simple rats. So these rats were a male and a female. I was told that when I arrive at my home, upon my arrival at home, I would have to starve these rats, starve them for about 1 week. Then 7 days later, I would have to slaughter a chicken, harvest the blood from that chicken that I had slaughtered, then give those tiny rats the blood. I did as I was told, and I never told my wife about this story. I just kept it as a secret. They were too tiny for her to notice them. I had to put a basket next to the box where these rats were in that room. A week later in the morning, I woke up and then there was money in the basket. It was new banknotes. This money, I was not allowed to give it to anyone, especially my relatives. I was told that with this money, I was allowed to buy anything with it, but not allowed to give anyone cash, even if it meant that for my relative, it was a matter between life and death. I was not allowed to assist anyone or to give anyone cash. If I wanted to help, rather I would buy, then I'll give the person whatever I would have bought. I was told that I should never see a dead body. I stayed with my wife and our life improved. We were blessed with children and our life truly improved, and I kept my little secret. 8 years later, 1 rat died. That is when the whole plot twisted. That rat became very angry. It will make noise, and I went back to Tete to tell the old man that we had a very big problem. That is when I found out that that old man that he had given me these things had died. I came back home, and that year was horrible. We would not sleep. My wife was like, let's get some rat poison. We even hired a pest control company because this rat would make noise, come and eat my toes, my fingers, till one day it had to bite me very hard, such that I started to bleed. In my dreams, that rat will say that I want blood, I am thirsty, and I tried giving it chicken blood. but it refused to drink that blood. One night I dreamt that old man saying in a whispering voice, he was speaking with me. With that whispering voice, that old man told me that you have to give it human blood to appease it. But that was not the agreement. I went to my friend's place, who told me that it looks like that was the route that I was supposed to take since the other rat had died. I tried to find another Sangoma who could help me to stop this, but he told me that there was nothing that I could do. He told me that it seemed as if it was just impossible to reverse this thing that I had done. So I had to play along. There was no reverse gear for me. And one evening on the 11th of September, our daughter just screamed. So I ran to her room and I found her fighting for her life. We rushed her to the hospital, and upon our arrival with her at the hospital, she was then declared dead. My world came to a stop, and the most painful thing is that I was not allowed to see her, because if I were to see my daughter, I'll die, because whilst I was back in Tete, I had made that oath to that old man that I'll never see a dead body. Money I had, businesses I had, a lot of shops I had, but I was not happy. I knew that the reason was that I had done these blood rituals. When I came back home for the first time in a very long time, the rat then slept, and it looked like it was happy that my daughter had died. Was it a rat? Or maybe in my own eyes it appeared to be a rat, but it was more than that. I hated it that night. Then I put rat poison, and it didn't even attempt to come and drink the chicken blood. My daughter was buried and I couldn't see her, and at that moment I was just busy looking to find a way out of these blood rituals that I had done. I tried those prophets, but they made even worse for me. One day I had to go back to Tete with that rat in my boot. Upon my arrival, I threw that rat in a river. Then I went back home. My sister, I had promised myself that if I were to lose all the material things that I had acquired during the time that I was using this blood money, it was okay. I was ready to be poor again and to let it be. That night, I arrived back home to my house. I found that that same rat was in the back room sleeping. This was a real deal with the devil. The following year, our son died, and it was on the same day that my daughter had died. It was on the 11th of September. All of my 4 children have perished, and the most painful thing is I never get to see them and to pay my last respect. Some family members then started to be suspicious and started to go and consult around. I also want to stop this, but I don't know how. The most painful thing is that it happened this past year. My wife died, and the night that she died, she was suffocated. She fought so hard and she screamed, she shouted. I rushed with her to this other prophet. Now I know that they also want to pray in truth, but the spirit that they prayed to just failed to save my wife, and those who saw her say that she had marks on her neck, looked like the rat had strangled her. This rat is a female, and from the day that my wife died, I have a dream, and in this dream, I dream that I will be sleeping with this rat, and in the morning when I wake up, I will always wake up with my pants wet. To all of my relatives, I just look so suspicious. Because if any of my sisters or if any of my brothers, if any of my relatives, there are people who have come to stay with me in my house, but all of them, they have mysteriously died. Like I said, every year in my home, there is always a funeral. There is always one relative who will just come around September to stay in my home. Then that person will just die. At this point in time, I have given up. And the end is that I am also going to die. All that I want you to share with your listeners, my sister, is that never allow the love of money to make you to take unwise decisions. There is nothing for free. In the beginning, it may look all rosy, but in the end, you will pay with your life. You just don't know, my sister, the kind of a house that I am staying. It is a big house, but I am staying in that house alone. Relatives don't visit me, but whenever relatives visit me, it will be as if something has forced them to come and visit me. They always visit me in September, and in September there will always be a funeral in our family. Dear listeners, right there was a message that I received as an email from our admins. There is nothing for free in this world. If someone tells you that let us go and do this ritual so that we can be rich, run away with your life. There is nothing for free in this world. Let's meet again in the following episode.